Being a top producing agent is a lot of losing, but your why has to be greater than the obstacles you're facing. So what's your why? If your why is like shoes and cars, that's not the right why. Why do we need to skill up our entire business? It is going to change. If we want to remain in business, we have to improve, whether or not we like it. This is delivered a lot stronger when it's accurate, when you actually truly do feel hurt when you lose a listing. So maybe go out and lose a listing so you can know what it feels like on your next listing presentation. I want to talk to you guys first about why we're here. So the market is changing. Everyone tells us that. Like, anyone else tired of the NAR propaganda? Raise it high. Yes. We know it's changing. Predictions. And this is not meant to scare you. This is meant to give you an accurate assessment of reality. Right now, Zillow owns... What does Zillow own other than Zillow?
Showing time.
So what does that mean? Yeah. One day, anyone ever bought a car, CarMax, Carvana? You can go online, you can pick it out, you can pay for it, go pick it up. There is going to come a time in the next 2 years where you can do the same thing with a home. All of the agents who just open up doors are going to be out of business. All of the brokerages who are a middleman between Zillow and the consumer are going to have no place in this market. And I know that this is hard to hear, but it's a reality we all need to understand. Oh, the most muscular realtor.
I just turned halfway to Fort Worth.
You didn't get to talk about yourself. Who is this gentleman?
My name is talk about yourself.
Yeah, talk about yourself. You're a superstar.
Hey, my name is Austin Richardson. I work with Elite Realistic. There's a bunch of us here. What do I need to say here?
How many listings have you taken this year?
I've been doing this. So I joined Jessica back in August after I closed my first transaction. And since then, I've closed 9 or 10. Got 6 active listings, around $3 million.
Woo!
And, well, once we get the one live today, if the guy can answer his phone, that's it. And, yeah, I've just got some big goals and the right group of people around me. So, definitely happy.
And you're doing it every day.
Every day. Yeah.
Even when it's hard, you're still showing up.
I would say today I've definitely learned the importance of systems. Not that I haven't known that before, but I and not just day by day, but week by week and month by month, because I had to cut out my prospecting this morning to make other things happen, and now here I am, obviously late.
No, it's good to have you. You're not late. And there's one seat left for you.
Perfect.
Sorry it's in the back. I know you're a front seat guy.
All right.
So why do we need to learn how to list properties? Why do we need to skill up our entire business? It is going to change. If we want to remain in business, we have to improve, whether or not we like it. How many people know an agent that's getting by $100,000 a year and all they really do is open doors? Be honest. Do you know any? Yeah. And the content is great. Some of our content masters in here, you're going to do really well. Some people who have showed us that, Shannon Gillette, Levi Lexack, if you can really master content and have skills, you are going to be a millionaire. You need both. So we are here in this room today, and I'm going to tell you that it was not always icon and fancy stuff. There was a lot of door knocking, a lot of rejection, a lot of people telling me to go F myself, and a lot of times where I was in my closet in tears. Being a top producing agent is a lot of losing, but your why has to be greater than the obstacles you're facing. So what's your why? If your why is like shoes and cars, that's not the right why. That's not going to get you through those days where you're like, fuck this shit, I don't want to do it anymore. For me, my why is obviously my children, but I think it's freedom. And I'm looking around this room and I'm seeing people who maybe you've come up against adversity. Maybe you've dealt with racism. Maybe you've dealt with a man that has not treated you right or a woman that has not treated you right. For women personally, one of my biggest goals is to keep you from ever having to stay in a relationship because of money. You should never, ever, and men too, if you're not the breadwinner, I want you to be able to produce to where you never have to worry ever again in your life. and never have to stay with somebody you shouldn't be with. That's a big goal of mine. What is your why? Dylan, I know your why. Your kids say, Dad, I want to go to Florida. You never want to say, shit, how much is that? Who else has a really strong why in here? Raise your hand. Anyone have a very strong why? What's your why?
I want freedom. I want independence.
That's a good one.
Exactly what Dylan, his goal is like, I want to be able to travel wherever my kids want and
Yep.
never have to like think about like how much it's going to cost or, you know, I can't afford it.
I got,
Yep.
I got another thing to add to my why, because for me, you know, being in the Marine Corps for 12 years, like I didn't have the ability, like if my kids had something, like I wasn't able to just say like I'll be there. And I don't want to ever have to put myself in a position where I can't go to something because I've got a 9-to-5 job that you know I don't control my schedule.
Yep.
And so,
And our industry gives us the ability to control our schedule. Anyone else have a really strong why that they want to share?
To make sure my kids aren't in college debt like I was. So,
Give them a one up in life? Yeah. People talk a lot about they got to get it out of the mud, but why? Like, why do our kids have to struggle? Why not give them a chance? I agree. So, on those tough days, guys, I actually feel like before you even get started, you really have to define why you're doing this. Anthony, I know why you're doing it.
I have a few whys.
Yeah.
A few. But
Because I see you. You're like, you get mad. You're like, I'm going to win today. Someone is going to give me a listing today. And that fire is why you're successful. You impress me when you do that, by the way. So a lot of us, we just have to remember, why are we doing this? Because it is going to have, you're going to have tough days. Will it work? Hey, Melissa. This is the gal in Farmers Branch I told you about. Okay, will it work? I laugh because has anyone ever said this shit doesn't work? Fuck it, I'm not doing it. Yeah. Okay, so Dallas is a little bit newer of a market. You can kind of get away here with just showing up. The market I came from is not that way. Anybody know where I'm from? Hoboken. Hoboken, New York City. All the real estate shows you guys see are filmed where I'm from. There was no MLS in New York when I came up in this industry. You had to literally figure out how to put deals together. If you looked at the top 10 agents in my market, every single one of them was in coaching. Mike Ferry, Tom Ferry, Brian Buffini. They're dinosaurs to you guys now. But when I came up, if you were a top agent in your market, you were in coaching. It's not a matter of does it work, it's a matter of did you do the work. Coaching works, but not every coaching system is the same for everyone. Anybody know this guy? So Aaron changed my life. If any of you don't know who he is, I don't know why it's not playing. It doesn't play when it's on a laptop?
it should.
It's a video.
Press the space bar.
Yeah, you might have to click that.
It like doesn't even have the, oh well. So this right here is our calling bullpen that we had at my old brokerage. And Aaron would come in and do prospecting clinics and then listing workshops like what we're doing right now. And this changed my life single-handedly because I saw a bunch of people in one day make almost $500,000 on the phones. Setting appointments, going down and taking, $1 million condos from cold calling. So I'm going to teach you the formula that he taught me. Quickly after I started working with him, for anyone who's new in here or just getting your license, it is not a long process. If you do it, it works. In that same year I started working with Aaron, I was featured in an industry magazine. This is not a positive thing. The lady on the same page was involved in the bridge scandal with Chris Christie. But at the time, it was kind of a big deal that I got to be in this magazine. I came here. I quickly went from being a brand new agent to the #1 team in the entire office, in the Park Cities office. 54 homes sold my first 12 months here. It was actually 52, but I think they're a little slow. I was featured on Trade and Magazine. Not all of them were $250,000 listings. We had a lot over $1 million. In the month of July, I did $4 million myself in transactions. I wanted to show you guys this one because this was my very first cold call. They wouldn't let me go, Michelle, they wouldn't let me go alone. They made me take another agent. You remember? We laugh about that because at Coldwell Banker, you have to go with another agent. Can't go by yourself. So this was a for sale by owner that I had called. It was a 4-generation ranch in Seagoville. I put it on the market at $2 million. I sold it for 1 point something, I don't remember. And that was my first listing here in Dallas, and I got it from calling a for sale by owner. And I got it within 30 days of being licensed here. So it's not a matter of does it work, it's a matter of if you're gonna do the work. Does seeing actual real life examples of this happening help you or does it discourage you? Be honest, I genuinely care what you have to say.
It helps.
Okay, cool. So EXP icon, I'm gonna pass this around because I want each of you to imagine your name on this thing. That's what I'm here to make all of you icons. So in order to icon, you have to do 500,000 in gross commissions earned. I did that last year at EXP, my first year. My goal is to make all of you icons. Every single one of you in this room is capable of it. All right, so the 5-step listing presentation. What is the first thing you do after you set a listing appointment? Pre-qualify. So these are the questions. I'm going to send this to everyone in this room. Drew, I don't have your information. So if you want to send me an email, soldbynelsonglobal@gmail.com, I'll send it to you. Okay, so does anyone not have these list of questions? You don't? Okay, I'll make sure you get it. Just email me if you don't have it, soldbynelsonglobal@gmail.com. So when you're prospecting, you should have this on a sheet of paper when you're making calls and filling it out as you go. Austin's shaking his head.
Yeah, keep right there.
Austin, of all of these that you've filled out completely, how many of those listings did you take?
All of them. I think that's, like the listing I just took the other day, I pre-qualified the guy so well, we went straight to the paperwork. There's no presentation, it's like, it's not here.
These questions are not for the client, they're for you. When you become super busy, actually, when we were super busy in the middle of 2021, I would double book my appointment times. And whoever answered all the questions, that's where I would go. And whoever didn't, I would give them to a junior member of my team. Because if you answer all the questions, 10 out of 10 times you're going to get the listing. So if you want to start saving yourself time, stop being afraid of asking these questions. Anthony, you ever have somebody say, why are you asking me all these questions?
Yes.
How likely are they to list with you?
If you can't get them through the pre-qual sheet, how are they gonna sign the listing agreement when you get there? I mean, they're not motivated enough to even sit there and talk about the sale of their home. It's not something they're gonna wanna do.
Have you ever had anyone say, wow, no one's ever asked me all these questions, thank you?
Yeah. Well, like Austin said, I've had people already wanna sign the listing agreement when getting there because I was thorough enough to ask them the questions.
Yeah. So a newer person's tendency is to be scared to ask these questions or think someone's going to get mad at you or think they're going to hang up on you. They are not your client anyway. Your clients are going to answer all these questions and gladly do so, like Anthony and like Austin's clients he currently has listed and sold. Anyone have any questions about the pre-qual? I don't want to spend too much time on this.
Important question is,
Oh, what do you think the most important question is?
the last one,
Say it.
if everything makes sense that, we discussed today, is there any reason you would not hire?
That's right. What do you do if someone says, well, I'm not signing today?
I think just give them a runaround,
I don't go.
don't go. Or
I don't go.
discuss the
If you're
possibility
openly
of
telling
not
me
selling.
that you're not going to hire me, why am I going? And you know what's actually happened to me a number of times when I cancel the appointment? They call me back and they say, I'm sorry, can you still come out?
You said you're gonna send it to us, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Jessica, I do have a question.
Yes,
because
ma'am.
I haven't, this is a little bit different from the pre-qual that I have. It's the same thing, but on the price, how do you, whenever you're asking price, like, oh, do you?
It's a great question.
Yeah.
So, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I'm sure that you've been keeping up with your Zestimate and what everyone in the neighborhood is selling for. Do you have an idea when I come out what you want to list the home for? Do you have an idea when I come out what you want to list the home for? And usually, whatever they say, you're just going to repeat it and write it down. We do not argue over price on the phone. If they tell you $1 million and you know that the neighbor sold for 900, you say, okay, $1 million, got it. We'll talk about it when I get there. What's the worst things you can argue about on the phone? Yep, commission and price. Great, I'm excited to talk to you about it when we get there. I'm sure we'll find something that both of us feel comfortable and confident in. Any other questions? Okay. Good, you can see it. So this is the actual listing presentation. Why are we doing this? Objectives and why you? So your objective is to list the property for a price that will cause it to sell. Why you? What are you going to do different to get the home sold? So keep in mind, we're talking to a lot of for sale by owners, a lot of expireds. What's the number one question they ask you guys on the phone? What do you do differently? All of you have to figure out, what do you do differently? Stephanie, what do you do differently? You're a brand new agent, but you do something better than anyone in this room.
Door knocking, social media,
Social media. How many followers do you have?
all together,
Yep.
about 300K in all my platforms.
Me and Megan have sold over 600 homes between the two of us. How many followers do you have?
4.
Yeah. Most sellers in today's market would pick you over us. We all have to figure out what's our competitive advantage. Jesse, you're fairly new. What's your competitive advantage? What do you know you're going to do better than anyone?
That's a good question. Not too sure yet.
Are you going to care about your client? Are you going to work hard for them?
Yeah.
You're going to have the time to dedicate to them? New people, write this down. A lot of agents who are high producing do not have the time to properly dedicate to one client. The one thing that you can do different is you will pay more attention to them than the agent who sold 100 homes. People beat me like that every day. They'll say, oh, do you want to be treated like everyone else, or do you want VIP treatment? So even though you're brand new, you still have a way you can beat me. What's another competitive advantage? You have a lot.
Resume, track record, consistency, communication.
Yep. All of us kind of have to figure out what our brand identity is and what we do different than everyone. And you're going to have to really hammer that when you meet the client. So let's get started. Do you want to role play with me, Austin? Sure. Okay. So you're going to get to the door, and you're going to knock on it. You're going to have all your stuff in your hand. Say, Austin's going to come to the door, shake his hand, big smile. So thank you for having me over. I'm excited about getting your home on the market and getting it sold. And then what are you usually going to look at me like?
Just overwhelmed.
You're usually going to make some weird joke. Most people go, oh, are you now? Oh, okay. And you're just going to be like, just keep going. Don't let people throw you off. Would you like me to take my shoes off? I don't care what the culture is. I don't care how nice the home is, unless it's a complete big sty and you're worried about your shoes getting stolen. You offer to take your shoes off. It's a matter of respect. So you just shake their hand. The first thing I'm noticing is how tastefully you're going to walk through the house with them as you're walking in. First thing I'm noticing is how tastefully furnished the home is. So when we have offers come in, are we going to be including any of the contents of the home, or are you taking everything with you? Why are we asking that question?
So they can envision you being their agent.
You're assuming.
Boom.
Something close.
That's my first close. That's my second. I'm literally just getting to the door. How many times have I already closed? Twice. Okay, so first thing I'm going to, do you prefer to walk me through the property, or may I walk around much like a buyer would? Most people, what are they going to want to do?
Show you.
Of course. Exactly. And you want to let them. Great. Do you mind if I step you want to put your stuff wherever you want to have the conversation. What you don't want is them to be saying, let's go sit on the couch with my 10 cats. Okay, so you want to put them at some place where they can sign your listing agreement. So you're going to put all your stuff down, you're going to take a piece of paper, and you're going to take a pen, because they're going to tell you how wonderful, you know, their little trinkets are and their piece of paint that they did was. And you're going to write it down like you're really paying attention. Here's a bonus. When it's a couple, and you can tell one is really not open to having you there, and they're telling you about some upgrade they did, the one who's like kind of against you, you're going to say, what a great idea. Buyers love that. Was that your idea? I'm telling you, they'll be like, yeah, how'd you know? So that's a little bonus thing. Okay. So once you get back to the table, has anyone seen me do this? Why do I ask them for a glass of water?
That like establishes kind of a mutual respect.
Yep. And I want you to get comfortable with doing what I ask you to do. You're going to be in a position of asking them to do a lot of things. You're training them to get comfortable with doing those things. And you're also leading them. Most likely, the last agent they had that failed them had zero leadership skills. You want to get comfortable with showing them that you're a leader. It makes people comfortable when they're doing business with you. So you ask them for a glass of water. So I just want to begin. Now you're going to start your presentation. By the way, when do we bring an iPad? When do we bring paper? You know the answer. Go ahead. Who knows the answer?
Based on the demographic of people that you're working with.
Yes. So who would you bring paper for?
The older, you know, homes paid off, they lived in there the whole life.
Yeah.
You know, they probably don't deal with much paperwork.
Who are you going to bring an iPad for?
Younger.
And a high analytical. Someone who's highly analytical wants to see that you're up to date on data and trends. They do not want to work with a dinosaur. So try to get to know your people through doing what? Boom. She's got it. Pre-qualifying. Okay. So I just want to begin by saying thank you for the opportunity to be of service today. I generally like to start these conversations by asking, have you decided that you definitely want to make this move? And you're going to change your tone. Have you decided start speaking slower? Go right at them. Look at them in their eyes. Like if Stephanie's my client, I'm going to go right at her. Have you decided that you definitely want to sell this home? Just like that. Why are we changing our body why are we changing?
It's a hard yes or no question.
Command. That's right. And we want an answer. We do not want some gray area bullshit. We want yes or we want no. Yes, we tried it on our own. Yes, we tried it with the other agent. Yes, we're behind on our mortgage. The truth starts to come out. And now all you do is sit back and listen, because now you're able to know why you're really there. Great. So it sounds like you're definitely moving. Not looking to rent this home or hold it as a second home. Is that right? So now why are we asking them that question?
Agreement.
And we're going through all the other options. Anyone ever work with somebody that you found out after you listed it, after you spent a bunch of money, they were really just going to rent it? Would you rather have known that first? Before the $500 video? Happens to the best of us. So we're going to ask them all of those questions. And they're generally going to tell you the truth. The second question that we have is timeline. Okay, so that leads me to my next question. Have you decided that you want to price the home for what the most the market will give you today? Or are you willing to wait 2 to 3 years for the market to come to your price? What are you politely telling them?
Or you want to price this? I'll motivate her.
And what else are you politely telling them about that price they told you during pre-qual? It's too high. This is a realistic question. It is not your opinion. Who's out there? Oh. This is a kind way of saying that they're too high and helping them to self-discover versus saying, well, your price is too high. If you start saying things like your price is too high, you are not going to get the listing. They're going to say next and go to the next person. If you say things like, hey, I'm just curious, did you want the most that you could get today? Or are you willing to wait 2 to 3 years for the market to come to your price? Now they start thinking. Has anyone been with me where they ask me a question after this? I think you have. What do they ask me?
Just repeat it one more time.
When I say, did you want to get the most the market will give you today? Or are you willing to wait 2 to 3 years for the market to come to your price? What do they usually do when
They
they
say today, but they usually perk up when they're talking.
and then they'll say, why do you think my price is too high?
Yeah.
And what do I then say?
Yes.
No,
But in a nicer way.
I'll usually say, you know what, we're going to go through the area market data together, and let's see how you feel about price. Again, did I tell them that their price was too high? No. You should never tell anyone their price is too high. You always allow them to self-discover. This is why we get $40,000 price reductions, and the other agent had it for like 3 months and never got one. All right, everybody stand up. The energy's real low in here. All right, what is it? How do you do Ric Flair? 2 claps and a Ric Flair. How's a Ric Flair? Here. 2 claps and a Ric Flair. Woo! All right, good. The energy was getting a little low.
I'm like, who's low energy? We're learning.
Okay, so the third thing I want to ask you, and a lot of you are going to skip this question altogether, but don't. The third thing I want to ask you, having seen the information we sent over, maybe checked out our 5-star reviews online, have you already decided you would like me and my staff to help you with the sale? Me and my staff to help you with the sale. Just do it with me. Have you already decided you would like for me and my staff to help you with the sale? How many closes do we have now? Like 5.
4 or 5?
Yeah. What do you think most people say to that?
Not sure. Got to see what you have to say.
Exactly. I'm not sure yet, but I like what I'm seeing so far. Okay. Okay, and I get that. It is a big decision, not division. I just want to be clear, though, and again, a lot of you are going to skip right over this, but you got to get comfortable with saying this, especially if you're dealing with what personality type. What personality type wants to hear this from you? A driver. A driver does not want a wimp in their living room. They want someone who's going to come right at them. Like Austin would not work with somebody who didn't ask him this. Austin is a classic driver. I just want to be clear, though, that is my intention here today, to assist you to get top dollar for this home in a reasonable amount of time. So if you feel super comfortable and confident that I can accomplish that for you, I do have all of the paperwork here with me today. Fair? Great. And most people are like, well, whatever. Okay, great. And now you want to go over everything in your pre-qual. Okay, great. So Dylan, you mentioned that you're moving to Colorado. Is that right?
Yes.
And you said you have to move there because your job is moving you there?
Unfortunately.
Okay. And you start your next job, or your work start date is July 1st. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so we need to get to work quickly then. Be an actor, guys. Acting will always help you. Oh, we got to get started right away. Okay. And you said you have about $200 left on the mortgage. Is that right?
Yes.
And there's no other liens, no solar panels, no window liens, nothing like that?
No.
Why are we asking that question?
Because that you might, like when you're going through that list, you might be able to be like, oh, I forgot that I got the fence down and I still owe a loan. I have a loan or something.
And you need to know how much equity is in the deal. Is anyone right now dealing with people who have less equity than their home is going to sell for?
So it's a short sale on Monday.
Yep. So do we maybe need to start skilling up on how to do short sales? And if someone in your office is a specialist in short sales, like Kevin Suber, can you then refer that listing because there's very little people who know how to actually do that? So we need to know. We're asking that question about the mortgage and the liens. We need to know exactly what their equity is. Most people have good equity. You're going to say something like, great, excellent equity we need to protect. Why are we saying we need to protect their equity? That's all they care about. It's literally the only thing that's important to them, is how much money they need to get out. Got it. And you were kind enough to share with me that in terms of the agent selection process, you were looking for someone who really knows your local market. They have a strong track record. Is there anything else that's important to you, Dylan?
Just to get it sold quick.
Okay, awesome. That question you guys should have answered in your prequel, so you should know exactly what they're looking for. And what else does it do when you repeat it to them?
Reaffirms it.
It shows you were listening to them. It shows you're already going to be great to work with. So, anyone ever work in a restaurant? Yeah, well, just us. Usually there's one person who's like ordering and then the other person who's just sitting there pissed off or like wondering why no one cares what they want. I always talk to the other person because they're the one who usually says, give her a good tip, honey. Right? Same thing. When you go to someone's house, maybe you've talked the whole time to the husband, especially ladies, you need to focus on the woman when you get there. Men, same thing. Maybe you've talked to the man the whole time, you need to focus on the woman when you get there, vice versa. You have to show that other person that you care about what they care about, otherwise you are not going to be picked. I don't care who says that they're in charge, both people own that home, both people care. So, other spouse, did I get all of that down correctly? Is there anything else you would like me to focus on here today? Be the spouse.
What are you gonna do differently to get my home sold? We were on the market for X amount of, months.
I'm really glad you asked me that, Sophia. I'm so excited to show you. And then you just keep going on. By the way, are people going to ask you questions to throw you off all the time during your presentation? Do you get thrown off or do you stick to your presentation? Yep. I have done this same thing every time for maybe 1,000 times in my lifetime. It does not change. A lot of people in this room have seen me do it. It's always the same, right? All right, great. So I'm perfectly clear on what you're looking to accomplish, and I'm confident we can help. The great news is we only have 2 more items to discuss. And you're going to touch your folder and you're going to touch your iPad. You're going to say either the CMA or the seller's packet. Which would you rather talk about, the price or what you would get if you hire me? What do you think most people say? The price. Everyone says the price. We're discussing the seller's package as be really, really careful about this. I know you're going to spend a lot on the agent you hire to help. Don't you want to know what you get for all that money you're spending? Because that's exactly what they're thinking. What do most consumers think about real estate agents?
That we don't do. We're overpaid.
We're overpaid, yeah. So you want to be very clear to call out exactly what they're thinking and show them something different. If you do that properly, it doesn't matter whether you're brand new or you sold 1,000 homes, you will get the listing every single time. It creates confidence. So the CMA is usually what people go to. The price. Okay, great. So I've gone ahead and I've prepared what we call the comparative market analysis. I'm sure you've seen one of these, probably a million of these from all different agents, and everyone has an opinion, right? I bet you're tired of seeing these by now. Anyone gone to a listing presentation where they're like, don't even show me the CMA? So why do we say that to them? We're calling it out. We know you're tired of this, but it's also something that has to be done. We have to pick a price. We are a team in getting this home sold. Write down the word team. Everyone say the word team.
Team.
If you treat your seller like a member of your team, they want to play with you. They don't want to play with the agent that they feel is against them. We are a team in getting this home sold. I prefer we go over this information together and discuss the strategy all of us will feel confident in. So generally, I spend about 2 to 4 hours studying both the macro and the micro data to really understand the local market. And then sometimes I even go and preview our competition just to make sure that I understand all the details that make your home better. Is that the level of attention you are looking for from the agent you hire to help? What did I just do there?
You showed you showed your value that you've done before they've even hired you.
Can you say no to that? Really? At that point, they're kind of like, I have to hire. When you keep asking questions like this, they feel like they have to hire you. Okay. So, Mr. and Mrs. Sellers, I wish I got paid the way that the weatherman does, no matter if he's right or wrong. But unfortunately, I only get paid for being right. You see, if you and I decide to work together on a property in this price range between paying my staff, advertising, media, I'm generally going to invest between $1,000 and $2,500. Do you think that I would be making a good investment if I was wrong every time I worked with a client? I genuinely do spend this money. Is anyone else starting it? Well, you do your own content, but I'm a dinosaur. I need to hire somebody. Anyone else like investing in their listings? Does it hurt when you lose them? This is delivered a lot stronger when it's accurate, when you actually truly do feel hurt when you lose a listing. So maybe go out and lose a listing so you can know what it feels like on your next listing presentation. It stinks when you spent $1,000 on marketing. There was a home in New Jersey. This lady literally wanted a pro film crew. She had me hire these guys that were like $12,000. It's a $3 million home. And at the end of it, she was like, oh, you know what, I changed my mind, I don't want to sell. That was a pretty big lesson for your girl. I was brand new, I didn't pre-qualify, I just did whatever the seller told me to do. I think she was really looking for free marketing because she was an interior designer. But I'm glad I can share this knowledge with you so it never happens to you. Make sure you pre-qualify, make sure you understand what your seller wants. Are you guys getting a lot out of this, by the way?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so do you know why that is? So after you sell them on why you're the best agent, you're going to ask them, has any other agent shown you this level of detail in a CMA? They're likely going to say no. Do you know why that is? Yeah, so generally most agents spend about $100 on photos. They stick their sign in the yard, and that's all the risk that they take. Megan, is that generally true? Yeah. So they're not too committed to getting your home sold, Mr. Seller. Do you feel that I'm committed to getting your home sold? Reselling the value again. We have to sell the sizzle, not the steak. Okay, so when we look at this information, we have by the way, I haven't even opened the CMA yet. I've spent all this time selling it. Very rarely does anyone ever get mad at me either. They're almost always like, wow, you're so refreshing. I'm so glad we met. Okay, so when we look at this information, we have the difficult job of putting the buyer's hat on. And you're going to say, putting the buyer's hat on. What we need to think about is like ourselves, if we were going to buy this home again, what would we spend on this home based on what else is available? This is, you've sold a home, right? How hard is it to do even as an agent for ourselves? Yeah. This is a really hard thing to ask people to do, to look at their price objectively, but we have to do our best. Okay, CMA. So we're going to go through the CMA. We ask, we don't tell. Megan, can I? Thank you. All right, so this is an actual CMA from one of my listings. So you pull this off of the MLS under Netris, like on the tabs. Do you guys all know where that is? On the home screen, when you log in, there's a green button. It says Cloud CMA. Click that button. You put in the address, and it just digitally makes it for you.
You can also do it straight on the MLS.
Why is this not like? Oh, there we go. Okay, so I personally go in and mark it up with like a digital system. You can do it by hand. You can do it however you want. What you're going to do is you're going to ask them, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, based on what's available versus what recently sold.
It's not touchscreen, yes.
And you're going to write this down. By the way, new people, write as many questions as you can so you don't get stuck or you don't forget. I still do it because sometimes we forget nuances. And it's a question that you're going to ask them. You can write it right on there. So Mr. or Mrs. Seller, based on what's the amount of homes for sale, the green, versus the amount of homes that recently sold, the red, what market do you think we're in? Are we in a seller's or a buyer's market? And most people are going to look at you and say, I don't know, you tell me. And you guys are going to have to decide. So this is where your professional insight comes in. If there's 3 sold and 10 for sale, which market are we in? Buyer's market. If there's 15 sold and 1 for sale, what market are we in? Seller's market. If there's even amount, what market are we in?
Balanced.
It's balanced or stable. And why does this matter?
Because it helps you determine how you should position their home.
It helps in how you position their home. What'd you say, Austin?
Kind of determine what they can expect to receive.
And price, yeah. And what else about pricing? If you are in a buyer's market, can you be a little bit more aggressive and price it a little higher?
Yes.
No.
Buyer's market, no.
You need to price it actually a little bit below. So this is going to shape the conversation that you're going to have with people about price. And this is really important that you guys actually understand it. This is a whole other class. I have one recorded. I'm happy to give it to you. But the conversation you're going to have with people from here on out has to do with pricing. You need to understand market trends and what they mean. So again, I put the cheat sheet on here to kind of help them. Well, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, it looks like previously homes are selling at $192 a square foot. All the ones under contract right now are at $173, and the homes that are on the market and not selling are at $179. What do you think the market is saying about $179 a square foot? Louder.
Expensive.
Too expensive, that's right. So again, is this you telling them the price is too high, or is this them self-discovering? Yep, there's a saying that we had on Wall Street, you can't fight the tape. Facts are facts. You know, whether or not they like it, this is the reality of the market, and you're just being their friend and holding their hand through it. Okay, so overall, the price has slightly declined. Again, you write notes for yourself so you don't get stuck. Can somebody read this right here?
Can you zoom in?
If we want to beat the competition for a buyer, we will want to be priced slightly below the competition, the competitors' prices.
So usually they're reading this and kind of ignoring you, and they're going to come out with it and say, well, my neighbor's at 380. What do you think we should be at? And you say, well, let's go through it together. Okay, why is this important to us?
Because it shows, if they want to, again, how they should position the property based off of what their goals are. If they want to be, lower days.
If you're taking 30-day listings and it takes 44 days on market to sell, did you just put yourself in a bad position? Yeah. So we need to know this for ourselves so that we can decide what kind of terms we want to agree to. If you're selling homes in a market where that says like 7 days, you could take a 20-day listing. If it says 90 days, you better get like a 4-month, 5-month listing. So you need to know this to protect yourself. And the way that you describe it to your client is, well, it looks like Mr. and Mrs. Seller that it takes people a little over a month to get a contract. Do you have that much time to get a contract? If Dylan just told me he's moving to Colorado, does Dylan have a month and a half to wait for a buyer? Well, Dylan, what do you think we can do to make one come faster? You see what I just did there? This shit is magic, y'all. This shit is fucking magic, and if you learn how to do it, it is a cash register that'll pay you the rest of your life. Somebody say cash register. Cha-ching. I keep it simple because not everybody can remember all that. And also, I like to talk to people simple because usually, unless you're going after $1 million listings, that people think you're trying to be too fancy on them. Okay, so days on market. It looks. What do you think this says about the market we're in? It looks like time on market is increasing. What do you think this says, Mr. Seller, about our local market? Is it improving or is it getting worse? Yeah. This sets you up for if you need to ask for price reduction later. If the market continues to get worse, you showed him first.
Jessica, do you, I don't mean to be off topic, but since you're doing this report, do you use this information to help whenever you need to do price reductions?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. That was that weekly market report thing. I can do classes on each one of these things if you guys want. Okay, so you're going to go through everything that's sold. So Mr. and Mrs. Seller, why do we care about things that sold?
It shows us what buyers are willing to pay for houses like yours.
Exactly. Say it one more time.
It shows us what buyers are willing to pay for a house like yours in your area.
And what if we're able to trick a buyer into paying a little bit more because they're relocating and they just really like the house? What if we're able to trick them into spending more than it's worth? Why do we care about these? Yes. You have to get really good at explaining appraisals to people. Why?
Because in a market that's shifting, like that can put them in a weird situation, and if they accept an offer that's over list,
If the home doesn't appraise and the home goes back on the market, who's the jerk? Is it you or is it the buyer? You. The seller, all the seller hears is that the deal fell apart and you're the leader in the transaction. If you don't discuss this with them beforehand, you're to blame. If you discuss it with them beforehand and they make the choice, this has happened to you, I think, who do they blame? No, themselves, usually. They say, well, you warned me, but I wanted to try. You have to understand how to explain appraisal value to people. I don't want to get too bogged down in this. I just want to give you guys the highlights. One thing that you're going to want to do you see how I write down like every little thing, like that home is smaller, it's the similar age, it's a different subdivision. Do you see how I write down every little detail and point it out? Why do we do that?
so that way you're not just giving them data, you're giving them your.
What does every home seller say to you? But my home has. They had 4 bedrooms and I have 5. You're showing them that you paid attention, that you know that their home has 4 bedrooms and that one has 3.
Do you print the additional photos?
I don't. Sometimes if it's like a really similar comp, I'll go on like Zillow and show it to them and I'll say, hey, what do you think about their kitchen? Did you see that? I'll go through that. Again, I want to do this really quick. We want to write down, show them that we have paid attention to every detail so that they feel that you really understand their home. By the way, is anyone else doing this? Unless they've been trained by me, nobody.
I think it helps you stay on track too.
It does, especially if you're giving guarantees.
Are we also getting the?
I'm happy to. So then you're going to go through what the competition is. When you're describing competition, you're going to want to ask something like, so here's another home that's in one of our competitors. You're going to say something like, that's so weird, Melissa. Why is your neighbor that has the same square feet, 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, the same age as you, on the market for $40,000 less than what you want? What's wrong with that house? And what do you think usually happens with the seller? They don't have an answer. And they look at you like, oh my God, do you think 350 is too high? They don't want to admit it, but this helps them to understand. Let's say it together. Mr. Seller.
Mr. Seller.
What price do you feel we should use to create value in the eyes of a buyer and get someone to want to purchase our home versus the competition? One more time. Mr. Seller. Loud. What price do you feel we should use to create value in the eyes of a buyer and to get someone to want to purchase your home versus the competition? I used to say this probably about 50 times over and over and over again in my car on the way to the appointment. This is the most important question you're ever going to ask a seller. What do you do after you ask it?
Shut up. Stay quiet. Same thing.
Have you ever had a real long, real uncomfortable pause? I'm going to hear the swang real long. Have you ever had one? Has anyone ever done this? Has anyone ever asked this question before? Have you ever had a very long, very uncomfortable pause?
Yes. It's the most awkward thing.
And don't break it. Let them speak.
If it's 5 minutes before they speak, do you stay quiet?
You just look at it right in the eye. Let them speak first.
Ladies, I know that this is a little weird, but the first person to speak loses. You have to shut the F up. You ask that question, you stare at them, and you wait for a response. You've seen me do it. It's a little weird, right? Seriously, not a word. So what do you think they usually say after that?
Well,
Austin, what do they usually say after you ask them what price?
What do you?
Yeah. Well, what do you think? That is the common response. Well, Michelle and Dylan, you know, your home is lovely. I can tell you've really taken great care of it. I'm just curious. It looks like the other homes in the neighborhood are on the market at $310,000 to $350,000. If you were a buyer and you went and looked at all these homes, what would you buy your home for? What are they usually going to say? $350,000. They're going to tell you whatever the highest point of the market is. Okay, fair. I do believe that your home is much nicer than the one on Dove Creek, but Dove Creek hasn't sold. It's just sitting. And you said you have to get to Colorado, right? You have to re-summarize their motivation and why they're even going on the market. You said you had to be in Colorado by July. The average time on market is 44 days. Yes, Dove Creek is not as nice as your home, but it hasn't sold. Do you think that we maybe need to be a little lower to entice buyers? Dylan, what would be the lowest you'd even take for this home?
I mean, I wouldn't go a cent below them because I know my house is better than theirs.
Perfect. Why are we asking in this market, what's the lowest you would go? Why are we asking that specifically in the market that we're in right now? What is the lowest you would go? That is a very bold question. Why are we asking that?
Because the market changes and it allows us to for them to acknowledge that it changes.
You have to decide whether or not you want to take the listing. If you are in somebody's house and all the comps are clearly at 450 and they're telling you I won't go a penny before 500,000, you have a business decision to make. Is their motivation higher than their greed? Point blank, period. Is their motivation higher than their greed? What are some real motivating factors? Name them. What are real reasons why people have to move? Divorce. Relocation. Death. Debt. Loss of job. So if they just tell you, well, we want to downsize, would you take that listing? Probably not. I wouldn't. But maybe as a newer person, it's great practice for you. Maybe you only spend $100 on the photo and talk to them about that. Hey, I'm not going to spend the normal investment I would, but if you're okay with it, I'm okay with it. When you decide you want to reduce the price, we can spend more money on it.
Would you have
You-
a conversation? Sorry.
Go ahead.
Would you have a conversation with them, if they, let's say they did want to test it out for setting a timeline on that to do a reduction?
So when people have a high motivation, but they're stuck on price, I have somebody like this right now in Rowlett. God bless him. We had a conversation right then and there. He knew he was $100,000 overpriced. And I said, no problem. I'll give you your opportunity. I had him pre-sign a price reduction amendment for, I think it was 2 weeks after we listed it. And I would not take the listing without him signing that amendment. So I let him,
To the appointment.
yes, I took it with me. You know what else I do when I'm not really sure about a person? I make them pay for staging. If someone has invested $2,000 or $3,000 into staging, they're going to sell. They're gonna stop haggling with you over the stupid stuff. Oh, I have to pay my title policy. You know, all those stupid things, right? When they've spent money on staging, they're typically going to sell. And that's a great way for you to figure out whether or not they're serious. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I have a connection with an excellent stager. Unlike everyone else, they'll allow you to pay out of the profit at closing. You don't have to pay up front. So that is one benefit I can give you. But if the home doesn't sell, you have to pay right away. Would you like to meet with them? So that's a tactic you can use if you're not sure. Bring the price reduction amendment, get them to pay for staging. Great question. Okay, so when you get them to agree on a price, typically at this, so sometimes it gets a little funky. Anthony, you've been with me when it got a little funky. That FISBO that we listed in Dallas. What did I do at that point?
I'm trying to remember that exact appointment.
It's been a while.
Because I was thinking of a different physical, but what do you mean? Because it's so open-ended, like, what do they do at that point? It's like, you go back and forth with them a little bit, but if they're not really willing to settle on the price, the only thing you can do is, have them take on the burden of the price. Like, you could have them pay for the photos up front. This way, if they don't want to drop the price later on, you can always just cancel the agreement on them. You don't lose any money.
Yeah, what I was talking about was more in terms of when it starts to get a little funky with price, where you feel like you're kind of like arguing. We never, ever want to argue. The minute you argue, you've lost the listing. Never, ever want to argue. But when you start to get in that position, shift to, hey, let's come back to price. Do you want to hear about what we would do different to get your home sold? Do you want to know about what you'd be paying for if you hire me? And now you shift to your seller's packet. Everybody need
This with that bikini listing noise.
Oh, yeah.
We threw everything at him in the kitchen sink.
There are certain cultures that like to argue, and it is okay in that one instance to argue. Some people want to see you're not afraid.
So anybody can walk in the house and
Okay, let's all take a quick bathroom break before I go to the next thing, because I can see we're getting a little tired. All right, y'all, we got 30 minutes before the bar. We got 30 minutes before the bar. All right. So you switch from pricing, you want to go towards why they should hire you. If anyone is not, like you don't have your own track record, use someone else's. Ask, what agency are you with? Yeah. So you can ask like a Ben Wegman or somebody like that, hey, do you mind putting me on your Zillow team so that you can use their track record? You're at EXP, right?
No, I left.
Oh, you left?
Yeah, with Wellsville property.
Well, you'll be back. Yes. You can leverage somebody else's track record if you don't have your own. I mean, all of us do this. When you're going to buy something, do you look at reviews? Everyone does. So your clients, the minute you get off the phone with them, they're Googling you, and you have to have some sort of track record. We are actually at 80 sales now. This is kind of like, this was like last year. Yeah. So leverage somebody else's experience. This is our seller's packet. Oh my God, what do I do? This way. Boom. Write down put in there what your competitive advantage is. So like, I put all of the new construction I've sold out and like my accolades. Anyone here ever do something before real estate that you were really good at? Yeah. Put that stuff in there. So for example, like I put that I played softball at UCLA and that I was a state championship ball player. Some sellers will literally say that to me. Hey, I think that's really cool. You must have, you must know this or that. You were a Marine. You are a bodybuilder. Anyone else in here have like something special that's been really hard that you've done in your life? You're going to want to put that in your resume because people are going to ask you about it and it's unique about you. What's your selling points? Oh, so funny. So new construction sellouts. I'm going after builders, and everyone who's on our team, you can leverage this. If you go after builders, we've sold out 3 really big, 2 are buildings, and 1 is a whole community. So this is impressive to builders. They want to see that you have a track record. Anyone who is worth something wants to work with someone who is worth something. It's just a fact. You're going to want to put your map. If any of you have sales that you have two sides of, you're going to want to circle that because very few people actually put together their own deals. What's the number one complaint of most sellers and most FSBOs why they don't want an agent? Yep. They think that all you do is stick a sign in the yard and you never bring a buyer. So you want to have some proof that you actually bring buyers. Highlight that to people. It will impress them. And you're going to ask them, again, you're selling benefits, sell the sizzle, not the steak. What can you ask them to hammer this home?
Do you believe there's anybody better than me to sell my business?
Boom. That's a good one.
I didn't ask for this now.
I asked them, has any other agent shown you that they sell their own listings? Has any other agent given you actual evidence that they've done this? If you're talking to an analytical, use words like evidence, facts, data, because this is how they're driven. Anyone ever been with a seller where they say, well, all of this sounds good? How does it look to you? Facts, evidence. So again, sell the sizzle, not the steak. What are the four, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, whether you hire me or anyone else, here's the four things that you should pay any realtor to do. The first, to assist in establishing a fair and competitive listing price based on exhaustive analysis of current market conditions. Hey, that CMA we went over, did you feel I did that?
Yes.
Any of the other agents that came over, did you feel that their data was exhaustive? What do you think most sellers are going to say to you? No, they just gave me some papers. Okay. So the second thing that you would hire an agent for is to channel as many qualified, and you're going to say qualified. You're really going to hammer that, especially if they were an expired. Qualified. Annoying like that. Qualified buyers as possible into your home until it is sold. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, when you were previously on the market, do you think that some people were kicking tires and couldn't even afford your home? What does every seller say to you? Oh my God, what a waste of time. They came over here and they had a jalopy and blah, 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 blah. They're going to go on and on. Okay, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, to the best of my ability, we are quite busy. It is spring market. I'm going to screen the buyers and the buyer's agents who want to see your home to ensure that they are actually pre-qualified or have the proof of funds for the amount to afford your home. How you can do this is you can put in your like showing time in Broker Bay that you're requesting a pre-approval. Some people give it to you, some people won't, but at least you're making the effort. More than any other agent can say. By the way, is this what you're looking for in an agent you would hire to help? You think they're going to tell you no? Sell the sizzle, not the steak. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, so the third thing that any agent you hire should do is communicate to you the weekly results of their activities. I'm curious, after your last agent stuck the sign in your yard, when's the next time you heard from them? What does everyone say? Whenever they wanted a price reduction. What do we do that's different?
Weekly market updates.
You're going to send them a weekly market update. I'll show you that next, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, what we do. So you can tell me whether or not it's going to work for you. Now, the fourth thing, and by the way, this is actually my competitive advantage. You guys don't have to use this if it's not yours. I would suggest, however, becoming very good at negotiating if you want to survive this market. There's three things that you can do. One, a lot of deals. The more deals you do, the better you're going to get at negotiating. It sharpens your sword. 2, read a book called Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. 3, there is a Harvard class, you can take it online, on how to become a certified negotiator. I would start with those 3 things, especially Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference. There's also, I think, a class that you can take now.
What was the first one?
Do a lot of deals, because you get better the more deals you do. Sharpen your sword.
Just don't be afraid to ask.
Yeah, but absolutely. Absolutely. So, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, in my lifetime, I've sold over 200 homes. Do you think I'm good at negotiating? Most of the time they're gonna be like, I don't know. I'm gonna say, well, on average, I'm beating the market, and this was true for most of the market. I'm beating the market by about 8% over appraisal value. And I have like actual proof of that. But you guys do your own thing. You don't have to do what I do. Do you want an agent who gets you 8% more for their home that's actually worth the money you're gonna pay them? Or do you just want an agent who's gonna take from you? Remember how they thought you were overpaid and you don't do shit? Did you just prove to them how you are worth the money that they're gonna pay you? Does this make sense, everybody?
Yes.
Negotiating is the most important reason why you should hire me today. I go in on this because this is my thing. If your thing is social media, if your thing is working with reload buyers, whatever your thing is, go in on it. This is your time to really shine. Me personally, I'm a bomb-ass negotiator. I'm really good at it. I've been doing it. I have 2 children. They've made me excellent negotiators. Anyone have children? Y'all bitches can negotiate. So, go in on it. Okay, the second thing I told you about was channel buyers in your home, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. Can you do me a favor? Anthony, I drive you nuts with this. Can you, you're gonna give them the packet, or you're gonna give them the iPad. Another weird, awkward moment. Hey, Michelle, can you read number 11 out loud to me? You're my seller. Go ahead, read it. Okay, can anyone see it?
Prospect at least 3 hours daily and talk with 50 to 60 people or 40 to 50 people. Yeah.
Okay, y'all can see it better now. I give them the packet or I give them the iPad and I ask them to read it out loud. If they're like, oh, my glasses, I can't see it, what do I do, Anthony?
You read it too.
No.
I do.
I tell them to put their glasses on. Why is it, Austin, you've seen me do this. Why is it so important that they read it out loud?
Because nobody else does that.
Yes.
I mean, every single person that's read that out is like, wow.
Yes. What do they usually say after they read it?
I say you can do that.
They go, do you really do that? And typically at this point, they stop listening to you, so you need to make sure they're awake. So you get them involved. This is really, really awkward. Get comfortable with the awkward. It is going to get you more listings. After I have them read that, and they usually ask me, hey, do you really do that? I'll say, well, how do you think I sold all these homes? And then I'll ask them another selling question. Do you believe in today's market that this is what needs to be done to get the price you want? Do you believe in today's market that this is what needs to be done to get the price you want? You guys writing this down? This is a very important question to ask them. Do you believe in today's market that this is what needs to be done to get your price? You just help them to understand why they should hire you and not the other agent who's willing to do it for 3% or $500 flat fee. Because what they just figured out is that putting it on the MLS for $500 flat fee is not going to get the home sold. They just self-discovered that. You guys catching what I'm saying? This is going to get you more listings. How many of you know that you're competing against a $500 flat broker? You are. Every time you call a FSBO, that is your number one competition. They don't know what you do to get a home sold. We don't know. Do we know what it takes to become a heart surgeon? No, right? That's not our job. They don't know what it means to get a home sold. When they read that out loud, they just understood why they should pay you money to sell their house. You just kicked out all the other cut rate brokers. Okay, so and then usually I say something like, you know what, I really don't want to bore you and put you to sleep by reading you all these things, but really, do you get the idea that I have to be more aggressive to get your home sold in today's market? Does that make sense? And they're usually like, yeah, I get that. You're basically, because we're in a TikTok nation, you're putting everything you just said in pictures. Because nobody reads anymore. None of us. You guys ever see a long post and you're like, oh my God. So you're putting everything that you just wrote in pictures. And you're basically just asking them, hey, how important is it to you that an agent has a strong social media following? I'm going to make Stephanie a top agent by the time she leaves here. Okay, you're going to ask them, you're kind of just going to summarize, how important do you think these things are? Is this something you're looking for? Again, more selling questions. They're going to give you more yeses, more agreement. Weekly market report. Do you remember the third thing I told you that you should be getting from any agent you work with, that feedback thing? Hey, your last agent, did you get anything like this from them? Do you guys notice how many questions I'm asking, by the way?
Yes.
Selling is
Asking questions.
never telling. So, I mean, this is my personality. You guys do what you feel comfortable with. I'll ask them a question like, because they'll say, yeah, sometimes people will tell you, yeah, I got some feedback when we had a showing. And I'll ask them, oh, what was the feedback? And they're like, oh, they didn't like it because we had carpet. And I'll say, oh, so you got that? Did you like it? And here's another important piece of game. Y'all should write this down. 3% on $1 million is $30,000. Do you really? You don't find that insulting that someone's asking you for $30,000 to ask such a low-skilled question? That doesn't bother you? You're paying me a lot of money. Calling it out again. You're paying me a lot of money. Shouldn't I have sales skills? Wouldn't it make more sense to create urgency as a salesperson? Shouldn't I be asking a question like, when can I receive an offer? When can I expect your offer? For $30,000, don't you expect me to sell? You know what every seller does? I'm ready to sign. They love it when you talk to them like that. You're their hero now. You know what? I'm really sorry that you got such poor service from your last agent. That is an insult that someone could even waste your time with that. Here's how we do feedback. And I usually have it with me. So there's 3 questions that I'm going to ask every buyer who steps in your home. 1, were you able to get in the house? How important is it to know if they got in the house? They're usually like, well, aren't they supposed to do that? People who are on my market report thing, you're hearing this again. You know what, Mr. and Mrs. Seller? If someone who is relocating from California to work at Toyota just saw your home in Plano, wanted to buy a home in Plano this weekend, and they couldn't get in because the lockbox was difficult for the agent, whose fault is it? Mine or that agent's? They're usually going to say that agent. And you're going to say, no, it's mine. You're paying me good money to make sure people come in your house. If we lost that buyer, it is my fault. Extreme responsibility is a sign of leadership. People want to work with leaders. It is my fault, Mr. Seller. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call everyone who shows your home and make sure they could get in. And in the event that that agent isn't available, and maybe I happen to be out showing, would you be open to, if it's a super qualified buyer, you opening the door for them? Has this actually happened to us? Yes, it has. Where we have asked the seller, hey, the buyer's like going to California in an hour. Can you open the door for them? And like we actually made the deal that we would have not gotten. So like this is real life stuff that we have to do. So that's the first question. The second question I'm going to ask the buyer is, when can I expect to receive your offer? Dylan, and then I usually ask them, like a role play with them. Dylan's my seller. Dylan, when can I expect to receive your offer?
I'm the seller.
Yeah, the seller usually goes, whoa, whoa. Yeah. And I'll say, you know what? Usually what they think is, 1, we already have an offer, so this is negotiating strategy. We're bluffing to get a better offer. 2, they realize that there's urgency, which again, that's my job. Now you're demonstrating that you're great at negotiation. You told them, now you're demonstrating. And 3, I bet you really want to know why they don't want to offer list price if they don't, right? Right, Dylan?
Yeah, for sure.
So my third question is going to be to them, if they tell me that they're not making an offer because they thought you already had $450 or because they don't like your carpet, at what price would you buy this home? Write that down. At what price would you buy this home? Mr. and Mrs. Seller, if you had 10 showings and 10 people said that they would buy your home for $350 and we're listed for $400, what is the market telling us about our price? And then I just move on at that point. This is usually in the packet. I let them look at it. I don't really like get too into it. You guys will have your own reviews, highlight important things that you think will matter to your future clients and put them in your packet. And then you want to highlight actual success stories that are actually on MLS, especially for people who are fact-driven, because everyone says we're going to get their home sold. Everyone says they do it for more. Very few people actually do. So we use, and anyone who's an elite builder, you can use mine. You don't even, well, I guess you can see my name. Well, you can use mine if you want. But I show them actual examples, especially for the people who are like, oh, this sounds great. I'm like, well, doesn't it look great to you? And then usually at the end of that, you're going to summarize like, hey, is this what you're looking for in the person you're going to hire to help you? So you just ask another closing question. And if they haven't already signed, if they're still like, you know, kind of like feeling things out, you're going to ask them closing questions. This is a classic Grant Cardone question. Have you seen enough to make a decision today? Which is different than saying, do you like me? That's saying, have you seen enough to make a decision? Another closing question you can ask, if they just keep giving you objections and stupid things that make no sense, what can I earn your business today? What can I do to earn your business today? When someone's giving you the runaround and they clearly like you, but it doesn't make sense, what do you think is usually the reason why?
They're not motivated.
It could be, but what could be?
Price, commission,
Something
or,
isn't clear.
Did you say commission?
No, clear.
Commission's usually the reason. Like somebody else who's a friend or someone else that they interviewed is willing to do it for 4 and you're at 6. And usually when you ask them this question, like it's going really well and you're like, why hasn't this guy just signed yet? This is usually the question you should ask. What can I do to earn your business today? Because they're going to come out with it. Well, the guy who just left, I signed with him. Oh, why? Well, he said he would do it for 4%. And now you guys have to handle the objection. In the state of Texas, how many days do you have to cancel a contract, technically? I'm not an attorney. Disclaimer. 3 days. Yeah. Technically, you can cancel anytime, as team leader knows. You just call the broker. But, you know, if somebody like hires someone right before you come, you can still win. And they would just call them and say, hey, I changed my mind. Be careful though, like don't be shady. You know, if you're just price cutting or commission cutting, that's like not ethical. Don't do that. If you're genuinely the better agent, you really want to help them and they decided that you're the better agent, then let them make the decision that you're the better agent. Does that make sense? Some other ways that you guys can handle like when they don't want to sign is re-summarize why you're even there. Anthony does this really well. You know, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I guess I'm just a little confused. You told me you wanted $350 for your home. We've decided on a plan that we think we'll get it for you, right? You feel comfortable with that plan? And you said you needed to be there in 44 days. I'm comfortable with a 45-day listing agreement. I guess I'm just confused. What's the reason why you're not ready to move forward right now? So if you keep going in a circle with people, you have to really figure out why they're not signing, and you have to keep asking questions, yes questions, until you get the yes again. And then my favorite thing, my last ditch effort, can I make you an offer? I laugh because these are hilarious. I usually get like all up in their face. Can I make you an offer? Like when you really want the listing, like if it's a listing you guys know you can sell and you're just like, why the heck isn't this guy signing with me? and you've been through everything, I'll kind of like lean into them and I'm like, can I make you an offer? It's a one-time offer and you have to take it today or it's not going to happen. And I'll offer them like a guarantee, like your home sold in 45 days or I'll pay you $5,000 for the inconvenience. Or I'll offer them, you know, a free video tour or free staging. But only do that with like a listing you really want. And make it very clear that if you leave without the signature, you're not going to do it. It's only going to happen right here, right now. Anyone have any questions? Yeah.
How long is your whole presentation
About an hour. Yeah. When people are really motivated, you get through this super fast. When people are not, this is a great, actually, you bring me to a really good point. The longer you stay at a listing presentation, the higher the price, the lower the commission. The quicker the presentation, the better the price, the better your commission. It's a great question. Anyone else have any other questions? All right, let's go to the bar.
I actually have one more question.
Yeah.
So I know you just took a listing, you did it over Zoom, right?
Yeah.
Will you just do the whole same thing over Zoom? Or?
I usually go through the pre-qual, and if I see that the motivation's super high, I just send it to them to sign. And I usually will send them the seller's packet and the CMA just so that they have it and ask them if they have any questions, but I get it signed first. I don't let them off the phone before someone else can take it.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What stuff do you take when you go on your listing appointment? Like, do you take them a gift of some sort? Like, what's in your folder? How do you dress? And I know this is a very basic question, but
Yeah.
I'm just curious.
CMA, you're going to take your CMA. You're going to take your seller's packet, your listing agreement, and your iPad.
That's it.
Sometimes I bring people a gift. It kind of just depends.
Do you take a gift? Like, not yet.
Is everyone ready to go take more listings?
Well, listen, a couple drinks.
All right, let's go to the bar.